explained to us. And I think that the next steps will be getting with the group leads and having the report outs, right?
Yep, exactly. And do you want me to facilitate that?
Yep, go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. So let's just start with the group that was over in this corner here. If whoever is designated as the report out, if you just want to take a couple minutes, tell us what your group hit on in terms of highest priority by goal area, and then maybe any topics that came up that you wanted to make sure were highlighted, brought to the front, anything that maybe you wanted to make sure was covered in these strategies.
Would it be possible to get the goals, like to flip back and forth through the goal slides as we
Yep.
go?
So that was my group, and for the first goal section, we really talked about the regional approach and then finding some kind of funding opportunities. We weren't sure like if a housing trust fund was necessarily it, but there was consensus among the group to explore different ways to bring funding to bear, and helping with developers or people who are looking to rehab homes to do that. For the second one, we saw that it seemed like the housing rehab program 2A was something we talked about that would be pretty important. We also talked about sort of the need for the city to continue to look at zoning and take a let's not obstruct new housing development sort of approach. For 3, we had identified development and opportunity sites. We thought that would be a good thing for the city to maybe do, is understand where these opportunities are and what we're really talking about. We talked about as a group that there's like a perception out there that Keene doesn't have a lot of land that's developable, and we'd maybe like to see that proven out or disproven. Again, taking a look at land regulations was mentioned during that part of the discussion, and some sort of developer assistance, again, sort of looking at the finances of doing some of this work and the difficulties that developers have getting these projects completed. And for 4, we said transitional housing was really important, and then also we wanted to look at 4C, the encouraging like downsizing options for people. We think that that holds a lot of promise potentially. We know from the data that was collected, we have a lot of older folks that are living in more space than they probably need, and if they had opportunities to downsize, they would probably, some of them would take advantage of those.
Do we get, I think we got, yeah, goal 3 was in there as well. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate those thoughts. What about, that was against the wall, the group that was back there?
That was me.
Hi.
So for 1, we did to engaging employers and collaborating regionally. Yeah, we just, with employers having capital and then building incentives, and then getting employees to be able to live closer. 2, we had F. So one point that we wanted to make is just because a home or a building is older does not necessarily mean that it's not in good condition. But that we could still do some work there. We also feel like we could probably look at any blight issues or how we can enforce any sort of absentee landlords that are not taking care of their properties. 3, we did D. So sort of incentivizing zoning. Councilor Remy mentioned 79E for single lot or single family homes to incentivize them. We also did talk about the developer assistant or gap funding, but perhaps not through the city.
Okay.
Maybe like through a collaborative or a nonprofit, you know. And then for 4, B and C. So same, we really like the idea of creating a transitional or assisted living for seniors, so single floor living. cluster communities.
Great. And what about the table that was back here? Who's the lucky individual from that table?
Hi, that's me. I was told I like to talk. Lucky me. For the first goal, we really picked the one central goal of collaboration on this, and specifically relating to impact versus effort. And effort in this case meaning the time and city money that would be involved in accomplishing these things. So that's both between the towns. Different towns in the region have different developability options. That's a word, I promise. They also have different needs potentially, but the whole region is impacted by this, and also there's a lot of traffic from the outside towns in and out of Keene, so really anything that benefits the region benefits Keene. Also between businesses in the city, especially places like the hospital, where we've had a pretty well documented need for housing with doctors, nurses, and especially with the new programs they're trying to create over at the old Peerless building. So the city working with that would be helpful for both entities. And then also between the colleges and the city, so between Antioch, Keene State, River Valley, et cetera. What other ways can we work together on this? If the college has downsized, what housing is there available currently, and how can we might maybe develop new housing with them? For goal 2, we talked a lot about programming, what's already out there, and how do we not reinvent the wheel on this? A lot of these are programs. Almost all of them are program related, and a lot of these have some programs that either already exist in New Hampshire or exist in other places that we can duplicate those things. So find out what's out there, specifically what home repair programs are available. There's a good number out there. Some of them are specific to seniors, I believe, but some like lead mitigation, things like that. If you want to clean up that kind of thing to make your house either livable or sellable or viable or whatever you're trying to do, there might be some programs in place there. We did talk about with regards to home sharing, we talked about a reluctancy potentially in seniors to share their houses. So how do we engage seniors? How do we overcome that kind of reluctancy? So we talked specifically about how does that engagement occur? And for instance, like, do we do it through one of the regional churches? Or do we have specific items that we want to talk to them about? Hey, there's a specific program this week on foundations, like your house's foundation. We do a specific thing on that. And sometimes rather than saying, hey, does your house need work? Come talk to us. We have a workshop on this specific need with your house. Can we help you? For goal 3, we just said, most of these are in the works already. Yay, planning department.
Great.
Also, joint committee has seen some kind of item on just about every single one of these in the last 2 years. So we feel like really this one is the reason there weren't a lot of questions on it.
Great.
Item 4, a lot of this is just about, it's about resource sharing as well. How do we get the word out about the programs that are available out there? How do we get the resources that are available in front of the people that need them? And that is a question as old as time, as all of us know, but it's important. Something specifically we brought up, though, is we focus a lot on senior, but also there's a lot of those seniors' kids. The state of New Hampshire used the term boomerang kids about 6 or 7 years ago. And that's a growing population, but we don't know exactly to what extent. And some of these move back in with their parents. Some of them move back into the region, but they want their own house. So how do we identify who that population is? Because we know it is a growing population. It's been documented over the last decade or so. And more multi-generational housing options, whether this is actual shared house or just try to make sure that the existing housing we able to put extra stories on or something like that that'll end up create housing for multi-generations there. Yeah, that is what we came up with.
Great. Thank you, Counselor. And we had one more group over here.
That would be me. All right. So my group with the first goal, we quickly started talking about 1A and 1C, so explore establishing a city housing trust fund. We like the sound of that, but we just were wondering how we would administer it. And there was also some discussion about where the funds would come from. And then with 1C, we have several large employers in the area, so that one does make a lot of sense as well. We did talk a bit about 1B and 1D, but those just seem to be more of secondary and things that should be ongoing anyway. In goal 2, we identified 2A as a priority. And there was a comment that this is something that was started previously, but again, there was a question about where did the funds come from and who will administer. And then 2C was identified as another priority, target infrastructure and other interventions in neighborhoods vulnerable to flooding, since flooding is a big topic of conversation out in this area. But that was something that there was a comment saying that that should be addressed through Public Works. In goal 3, we talked about 3B, review and align city land use regulations to support housing development. And we commented that that's something that we should be doing. And we also talked about 3D. And there was a comment about this saying that this program for developer assistance should be self-sustainable. The gap funding should be a loan rather than a gift, and then that money can be recycled back into the program.
Great.
And then for goal 4, we kind of lumped 4B and 4C together, talking them as one. But there was a comment on the language. Rather than talking about assisted living senior facilities, we thought it should be referred to as 55-plus active communities, because it sounds more positive. We did talk about 4A, but there was a comment about that saying that we should be partnering more with our community partners to accomplish this, such as Southwestern Community Services or Keene Housing. And then 4D was another priority that we talked about. Again, working with community partners, possibly ServiceLink, as some type of trusted organization that could really recommend and vet vendors and products for customers.
That's great. Great feedback. And right, we obviously have some emerging themes throughout all of the groups, and that really helps us put together, we've got our ideas of impact and prioritization, but right, I think hearing from all of you and how we put that together really helps us. So let me talk a little bit about how we use that feedback and next steps and things, and then I'll pause too and see if there's any other final questions. So again, I know this was a very quick sort of conversation and report out. I would say that Dan and I and staff are certainly open to additional conversation or feedback before our open house that is next week. And so we would just ask that if any conversations or any additional feedback you want to give, that if you wanted to send it in writing to staff by Wednesday, by the end of day on Wednesday, that gives us enough time to look at it, consider it, turn it around for the content at the open house. I think everyone has posters for that. I saw the big sandwich board downstairs. So we've got 2 things happening next Thursday. So we've got our open house, which if anyone was at the one previously in February, I think that was a similar style with different content, right? I think our goal is to put some of these strategies in front of the public and get some conversation and public feedback out in the community. We want to be able to have them do, maybe not small breakout sessions, but similar to the conversations that we had here, really understand the prioritization, where the biggest value is, and just get some of these strategies out into the community. So that'll be from 3:30 to 5:30 at the Hannah Grimes Center. And then following that, we will be presenting to City Council. It will include the feedback and conversations that we heard here today. And just excited to bring the results of this study and strategy to City Council. So let me pause there. Is there anything else I should add on logistics and things?
Does anyone have any questions about the upcoming open house? Do you want to give us the location?
So the Hannah Grimes Center.
Hannah Grimes Center
Yes,
on
yep.
Roxbury Street.
Correct, yep, at 3:30. It'll be, quite informal, sort of come in, come out, sort of any time. During that 2-hour period, there is going to be some food and drinks. Last time we did have a good turnout. I think it was a bit of a snowy February night, so, we might have a little bit different environment this time, but I would certainly encourage you to promote the event in your own personal networks, professional networks. It's really an opportunity, right, to, I know I keep saying this, but really just getting some of these concepts in front of everyday people and residents, and housing is a hot topic, and to just be able to talk about some of the solutions that the city is working on, I think is quite exciting.
Great. I think we're all excited for that.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed attending the last one as well. And,
Great.
Having it be a little bit interactive where I think we were all doing the stickers
Yes.
boards and getting to identify the areas that we thought were important. It was good.
Yeah, we'll do something similar, maybe digital, but some sort of feedback on, live feedback at the meeting.
Great. And are you going to be able to organize that for council for that evening?
Organize
part
the
of your-
results. Well, that's.
The results of that.
That's- Yeah, yes, we would be hoping to bring some of the initial snapshots of what we're hearing from the community to
Great.
the council, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions? Do we have anything from staff to close it up?
I would just add, if please help promote this, and we're trying to, I think, again, the last workshop was great, and we had a really good turnout, but we didn't, for example, I don't think there was anyone there who represented an employer, and so we didn't necessarily have a big diversity of perspectives present at that one, so we are trying to promote this one a little bit more widely. So I know all of you have your own networks and, social media platforms and whatever organizations you're a part of, if you could help just get the word out about the open house. Again, it's not a huge time commitment. Someone could stop by for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever they have time to do. And yeah, we're trying to make it as accessible to people as possible.
Has the city promoted it on their social media and made it shareable?
Yes, it's on the City of Keene, like the main City of Keene Facebook and Instagram, and I think there's going to be more posts coming, and we've put out a press release,
Great.
and we have some information on our website and posters around town, so.
All right. Well, we're hoping for a great turnout. Counselor Johnson, did you have anything to add?
Was it, city council is meeting this Thursday evening?
It is not this week, Thursday. It's the next week, but
That's what I thought.
it's the same day as the open house. So the open house will just be prior.
Correct.
And then they'll have a couple of hours in between before they get to visit us in the back here in the chambers. All right. So I think that wraps it up for today. Thank
It
you guys
does.
so much for all of the information. I know this is a lot to break down. 100 pages in that report was great bedtime reading. And I plan on going back through in more detail, and I'm really excited to see what comes out of this.
Great, thanks so much. We're happy to be here and chat housing.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. Okay, so thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with me. We're down to new business. I'm not sure if there are any items of new business that the board members would like to see added to future agenda. Do we have anything that we would like to suggest for staff to be considering? We're good? All right, so the next joint PLD planning board meeting is on Monday, May 8th, 2023 at 6:30 PM in City Hall Council Chambers. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:54.